From Interfaith Alliance, this is State of Belief Radio. I'm your host, Reverend Welton Gaddy. Peter Rollins is an Irish author and philosopher who writes provocatively about faith and spirituality. His new book has the striking title, The Idolatry of God, Breaking Our Addiction to Certainty and Satisfaction. I'm very pleased that this book brings Peter Rollins to State of Belief Radio. Dr. Rollins, welcome.
Hey, it's great to be on the show. Thanks very much for having me.
Listen, I want to start with this interesting description of your theological posture. You talk about Pyro Theology, which is a term that's going to be new to a lot of people. So let's start there. Would you explain what it means to be a pyro theologian?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite new to me as well. We kind of made it up a few years ago in Belfast. And initially, we just made it up to describe a gathering we ran with a group called Icon. And we wanted to use the term because it connotes fire. Pyro is in fire and theology. And we wanted to create a space where we would burn up our preconceived ideas. We would kind of burn through our certainties. We would interrogate ourselves. We would allow other people to be the instrument of our conversion. And so pyro theology was a term that we used to capture that, and it kind of stuck. So I'm using it until it gets boring.
You know, that takes courage to engage on that initiative.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I actually used to get people to believe. I used to go around and try to convince people to believe things. And I found that very easy because we all want to believe. But then I started to ask people to question their political, their religious, and their cultural ideas. And I realized that that's much more difficult because we try to hold on to them. They tell us who we are, where we're going, why we're right and other people are wrong. And I realized that if you're going to get people to question things, you've got to be better than whenever you're trying to get them to believe something.
Well, you use at the center of your book what I think is a very provocative oxymoron as you talk about the concept of an idolatry of God.
Yeah.
Talk about what that means.
Well, basically, the premise of the book is we all seek certainty and satisfaction. We all want something that will make us feel whole and complete and something that will tell us the answers. And when we look around, everybody's promising that. If you marry this person, if you buy this car, if you get this job, if you look this way, then you'll be happy. If you follow this political idea, then you'll know the answers. And it's like the world is a huge vending machine with lots of products promising us wholeness. And my argument is that the church has come along and put their product in, and God is just like the new car, the $10 million, whatever it is. And I want to argue that God is an idol, that actually faith isn't inviting us to embrace certainty and satisfaction. Faith is about helping us live with uncertainty and with unknowing and with mystery.
It's a fantastic insight into both the psychology and practicality of religion. And am I right or wrong that also leads not only to the kind of product sales you've talked about, but it also leads to our own creation of God to vindicate our own beliefs and never have to change them?
Absolutely. I mean, I grew up in Northern Ireland, which is a country that is riven by religious conflict, where God is simply an idea that tells me that I'm right and other people are wrong. And God has become this product that we use, a weapon that we use. And in the book, I kind of argue that religion buys into this, but we buy into it in so many ways. All of us are like Wile E. Coyote chasing the Roadrunner, if you've ever seen the Roadrunner. I mean, he spent 15 years chasing this Roadrunner, and we have to ask what would happen if he ever caught the Roadrunner. Would he be happy? And the answer is probably not. And I'm arguing that when we pursue God, or we pursue wealth, or we pursue in any number of things as that which will give us the truth and the answer and satisfaction, it actually makes us dissatisfied. It makes us unhappy. In fact, Oscar Wilde once said, there's only one thing worse than not getting what you want, and it's getting what you want. Because if you get what you want, you realize it doesn't satisfy. And then, where do you go from there? And I'm arguing that actually the true understanding of the sacred is not that the sacred is an object, and this is kind of central to the book. It's not that the sacred is something that you can put alongside other things. The sacred is the depth dimension in all things. It's the experience of the density and the beauty of life in its mundane, not just in its extraordinary.
How do you recommend people grappling with that? It takes a whole lot of honesty for someone to grapple with that. How do you recommend that people get out of that addiction, break that addiction?
Well, it takes courage. It's not easy. I'm not someone who's I'm no guru saying I have the answer, I've done it. I'm trying to live this life myself. I'm just trying to unpick it in my own way. But basically, I would say that everybody has pain and brokenness, that we are all haunted houses. Everyone who's listening to this show is full of ghosts. The people that they've loved and lost, the people they've hurt, the people who have hurt them. And what we do is we try to avoid confronting the fact that we are haunted houses, that our minds are full of ghosts. But at night, or over a few drinks, they come out and they haunt us. And what I'm arguing in the book is that the way to respond to these ghosts is not to hide from them and run from them and pursue something that would make us feel brilliant, but it's actually by confronting them, by looking at them, by talking them through. It's like if you could imagine a group of people sitting around a meal, a family, and one of the people's died at the table, and imagine nobody talks about it. Is the suffering not there? No, the suffering is there, it's just not talked about.
Yeah.
But then if we imagine the people starting to talk about the loss, someone telling a funny story, somebody crying, someone laughing, that speaking begins to rob the suffering of its sting. So my challenge to everyone who's listening to this show is to somehow be able to find a space where you can be honest about your pain and your suffering in a community of grace, of people who will accept you and listen to you. And in doing that, you will find a more beautiful experience of life. My book is not about life after death. My book is about something more fundamental. It's about the possibility of life before we die.
Dr. Rollins, if certainty and satisfaction are not proper motivations for this exploration, what would you say is the proper motivation?
Yeah, I mean, basically, certainty is an interesting thing because when I encounter someone who's different from me, who has weird beliefs and practices, I'll kind of do one of four things. I'll either try to consume them, make them part of my social body, make them believe like I believe and think like I think. And if I can't do that, I'll vomit them out, I'll get rid of them, push them out of the community. Or I might tolerate them. As long as you don't talk about your strange beliefs and practices, we can hang out. Or finally, there's interfaith dialogue where we could sit down and talk about how, beneath our differences, we're all pretty much the same. Now, I want to reject all four of those, because in all four of them, I'm right. In the first three, I'm right and you're wrong, and in the fourth, we're both right. For me, what's powerful and what's part of maturing as a human being and what's part of faith is that I experience the other person as strange and monstrous and weird. And then I look at myself through their eyes, and I see myself as strange and monstrous and weird. I realize that my views on marriage or culture or politics are very bizarre. So I need your eyes in order to see myself. I need you in order to find my own otherness and weirdness. But in doing that, I begin to see things that I've never seen before. I begin to see blind spots in my life, and you help me become a better, more beautiful person.
Well, that's wonderfully said. How do you describe the wholeness that you see missing in so many spiritual lives?
Well, It's kind of a strange thing because I'm saying, at first it sounds paradoxical. I'm saying that the pursuit of wholeness is what makes us feel incomplete. It's our pursuit of something that will fill us and make us whole that actually makes us so unhappy. Just as it's the pursuit of certainty that can often make us insecure about being around people who think differently. For example, there's a famous author called Rob Bell, and he wrote this book called Love Wins. And the certain segments of the religious community really reacted against it. And so at first you go, why did they react against it? Is it because they disagreed with him? But no, because there was lots of people who disagreed with him. The Amish disagreed with him, but they never said anything. The vehement disagreement actually showed that those people agreed with him in that he was bringing up questions that were within them, but they couldn't bring to the surface. And so the disagreement actually signaled, a form of agreement. And so what I'm interested in exploring is how we can be honest about our brokenness and our doubts and our unknowing, and bring those to the surface, so that we can learn to live in a more whole way. So strangely, it's in the giving up of wholeness that we actually find wholeness. It's in the giving up of our lives that we actually find them. It's in laying down the pursuit of satisfaction that, very strangely, is the place where we find a form of satisfaction.
You really are a very insightful and sensitive man. I can tell that. One other question, which is I guess more personal. What did writing this book do to you?
Oh wow, that's a beautiful question, because these books are not written from some ivory tower. They're not written because I want to make money or I've got nothing better to do. Sometimes people say, I want to write, can you give me some advice? And I'm like, don't. You write because you need to. Don't write because you want to. Write because it just bubbles up out of you. This book is, in a sense, me trying to come to terms with my own brokenness, my own desire for the answers, my own seeking of certainty. This book isn't offensive to other people. It might be offensive to other people, but more importantly, it's offensive to me, because it's asking me to allow other people to speak into my life. It's asking me to be more content with life. Because in a sense, I'm looking for the extraordinary. I'm trying to pursue something that's wonderful and amazing. But in doing that, the rest of life seems boring. And this book has challenged me to realize that if I give up the pursuit of the extraordinary and embrace my life as it is, I will discover that actually this mundane life is extraordinary, that it has a depth and a density that makes it wonderful and sublime. So that's the challenge of this book. I'm not writing to anybody else. I'm really writing to myself. It's like if you write a love letter. Love letters, a philosopher called Lacan said, love letters always reach their destination because it's you who writes it, who has to read it. That's why sometimes people don't even send love letters.
Yeah.
Because they had to write it for themselves.
Well, you certainly, I'm glad that the book has been helpful to you, because the content of the book is certainly helpful to a lot of us.
Well, thank you.
Peter Rollins is the author of the book, The Idolatry of God, Breaking Our Addiction to Certainty and Satisfaction. The book's published earlier this year by Howard Books, which is a division of Simon & Schuster. His previous books include Insurrection and How Not to Speak of God. Dr. Rollins, this is a thought-provoking, soul-stirring work, and I thank you for sharing some time with us here on State of Belief Radio.
Well, thank you so much. And just to let your listeners know that certainty and satisfaction are guaranteed with every purchase.
That's great. Thank you, sir.